Welcome to another special edition of Litter Media Live. I'm Dan Ramey, and in studio with us today we have two members of the Southern Ohio FCA board. We have the guy who's the representative for the chapter, that is Brian Grigsby, and there's John Saxton. Good to see you here today.
Good to see you, Dan. Good to be here.
And we want to talk about Gus Macker, which is coming up May 31st and June 1st here on the streets of downtown Chillicothe. We're going to talk about that and more in just a moment. But first, one of the Macker sponsors is Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, your trusted comfort advisor. They've been so since, 1977, so almost 50 years now, and serving a wide territory of Southern Ohio, from Columbus all the way down to Portsmouth, all the way over to Athens and Springfield and Dayton area. You want to find out more about them, just click on this ad anywhere you see it at littermedia.com, and it takes you to accuratehvac.com. Last Friday, we had Tom White in with us from Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. And very important to have sponsors for this type of an event.
Yeah, it's huge.
Visibility for the sponsor, but also it helps you guys do what you need to do, fundraising-wise.
Yes. Yeah, our sponsors are critical. It also, it just allows us to bring different parts of the community together, because even some of our sponsors will be those who bring volunteers and come down and serve, and then some of those employees will have kids that'll be playing, and so it just helps us to increase the awareness of the event. Obviously, the sponsors are a huge reason why we're able to do what we do with the tournament, but we're glad to have a very diverse group of sponsors this year.
If you're a longtime Chillicothe citizen, you have a good idea of what Gus Macker is, but if you're not, it's a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. They have 4 players on each team, and you just duke it out until somebody either wins the toilet bowl trophy or you win the whole big deal.
Yeah, I've actually won the toilet bowl trophy back in my day. So
that's good.
It was my most prized possession of Gus Macker, from first place trophies to sportsmanship awards. There was something about the toilet bowl that just you're the best of the worst. There's something good about that.
It's the only one that has a lid on it, you know.
That too. That too.
John is here. You have participated in Gus Macker in various capacities. One of the most recent might have been when Chillicothe City Schools was doing this with the booster clubs.
Yeah. Well, going back to the early '90s when the Gus Macker was here in town, I was a player. I didn't win anything, not even a toilet bowl. I think we did win a couple games, but all I won was some bumps and bruises and bust ego, and so no good that way. But I was a part of bringing the Gus Macker to Chillicothe in 2012 when we had it at Chillicothe High School in the parking lot, and it benefited, and the sponsors and the beneficiaries both were our booster groups in the school system, which was a great activity. We were really fortunate to be able to host it that year, and I'm glad to be a part of it this year.
Yeah, and you've recently joined the board for Southern Ohio FCA.
Right.
But you've got an experience that goes back a ways with the FCA.
Yeah. If I look at it, about 45 years maybe. So when I was a sophomore at Chillicothe High School, I was invited by Randy Hildreth, who was the son of the superintendent, to come to a Bible study group. I think it was on a Tuesday morning. My basketball coach, Bob Crabtree, was there, the cheerleading advisor, Nancy McCarter, who had also been in Bible studies with my mother, who was a teacher in the school system at the time, invited me. And so that was my first exposure to FCA. I moved away in my junior year to Logan Elm High School, and that was the first organization that I got involved with as an extracurricular besides my sports teams at Logan Elm. And then about 10 years later, I was honored to be able to be the FCA advisor, and we had so many very just excellent student leaders that were our huddle real leaders, and I was just glad to be along for the ride and let those kids lead the group, and we have over 100 kids actively involved in FCA. I did that for about 6 years before, again, being asked by Brian here recently to join the board of the Southern Ohio FCA.
It's important to have people on the board that know the organization.
Yeah, our board is very diverse, and we're blessed because there's not like a real set. This is what your requirements are to be a board member. But as we pray and seek about the right people to add to our advisory board locally, it's how can they, what value can they add to the board? A lot of times is how it's looked at. And I was actually, through an employee of Accurate, ironically, introduced to John, and we had lunch one day, and he started sharing about his experience with FCA, and which I didn't realize that. And the next thing you know, I knew of his experience just being in education and all that kind of stuff. And so, and obviously a passion for sports and a passion for Jesus. And so it just seemed like a perfect fit for him to join our board. And of course, with his experience being an actual huddle advisor, that's something that we don't have on our board until he joined us this year. And so that was a great asset, because he just brings that not just from a administrator, as a teacher, but then also someone who's actually led. And one of the things I've gleaned from him a lot is the student leadership side of things, and just trying to constantly pour into our student leaders. And what does that look like, and the importance of that, and how that really makes our huddles, as we talked about this a little bit last week, but that's really what helps our huddles be healthy and sustainable from year to year, versus just being the lifeblood of one teacher or one coach, and then the moment that coach leaves, the ministry dies. And so if we have student leaders that we're investing into year after year, it helps give us a really sustainable model that can last more than just one person.
Yeah. And you and I were talking before going on the air here about how it was like when we were in high school as a member of the FCA. While the organization has received better, organization from top down, the experiences are still the same. Kids have not changed much since 45 years ago. I mean, they if anything, they've had to deal with more stuff, more garbage along in our lives than what we did, but they're finding a way, and it's through Christ.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that's one of the, we talked about this last week a little bit, was how kids are just, they're lost, they're hopeless in a lot of ways, and they're trying to find where the missing void is. But they're going to search for, even honestly, in our world, it's sports. That is probably the biggest idol that a lot of our students have, are the sports, because they're chasing after approval, or obviously their identity is wrapped up in how they perform as an athlete. And so for us, like, we're trying to utilize that as a means to communicate with them, but ultimately we need them, we try to share with them that even that's fleeting. At some point, they're going to not be an athlete anymore. I mean, I would say 99% of our FCA kids in high school aren't FCA kids in college because they're no longer athletes. And so for us to try to give them a foundation that obviously will extend well beyond just them being an athlete is huge, and it's really the only answer that's going to fill that void that they're trying to fill.
I will tell you, seeing the noticeable differences in kids and how they handle circumstances on the field of competition, being down on a sideline with a camera and seeing these kids participate in a moment where things can get kind of heated. But I've seen the FCA kids step up in that moment and settle things down. We see the difference that this group is making upon kids off the field, and they're bringing it on the field with them.
Yeah. Dan, throughout my career as an educator, I really thought it was important to have student engagement. But looking back now, I realized that it was about more than just engagement. It was about empowerment. And we've seen examples where that in this community have made a difference. We're seeing it on sports teams. And I think culturally throughout our schools, throughout this region, because we're talking about the Southern Ohio FCA going from Pickaway County down to the river and a lot of communities in between, there is a desire for a lot of us adults to have that example of Jesus in our schools, and to be able to have a student-led group empowered to help impact that culture in a positive way is more powerful than a principal or a group, an advisor. And that's what I've seen and experienced throughout my career, and I want to be a part of continuing that now.
Yeah, we've seen, we're very blessed. A lot of people ask us, what kind of hurdles are we facing to get into schools, right? They assume because we're a Christian organization, we have a lot of hurdles getting in. We're very blessed in Southern Ohio that we actually have more schools and more administrators and more coaches reaching out to us with how do we get FCA here than right now than what we have the capacity to really support. And a lot of that is because we are student-led, and so therefore our students do the leading in the schools, and from a legal standpoint, that's what allows us to flourish and thrive in those environments. But again, it's those students. I say this oftentimes to our students in like our leadership trainings. I firmly believe that nobody can minister to this generation better than this generation. And so if we can try to empower them, as John said, and equip them with tools and resources versus just throwing them into the fire and saying, good luck. Well, us as an organization, we're trying to spend a lot of time and energy on actually equipping them well to be able to lead their peers in Bible study. It's amazing how many kids really don't know how to open a Bible. Mm-hmm. They know how to get on an app, but they don't necessarily know how to open a Bible and to study God's word and then create and facilitate discussion in a group. And so just some of those simple things, how to share their testimony. Their testimony is probably the most powerful tool they have. And so just trying to help them to be able to use those tools and those resources to honestly encourage and to lift up their peers is what we spend a lot of time doing.
I was impressed with one of the retreat experiences that I had in watching the kids get together in these competitions that you have out of the camp, and to see someone lead in prayer.
Yeah.
And I think back to my teenage years. Would have I been able to step up and do that? Yeah. And I was more impressed with the content of their prayers as well. So this is making a difference in people's lives. And I can see why schools would want it to be there, because they see the positivity out of it all.
The fortunate seat that I have, just speaking of that, is I will get texts with pictures often, and it's becoming more often, of a group of players on the sideline, whether it's football. This past fall, we had a particular team, and there was just a picture of them on the bench praying before there was an injured player. This specific instance, there was an injured player on the court, and so the girls were just praying on the bench in a circle. And so somebody had snapped a picture and sent it to me. But it's kids becoming more bold to just step up and pray before games. And a couple of our Chillicothe leaders were just sharing a couple weeks ago in an event, and one of the things that Jackson, our student leader, was sharing about was that they've started, I think, 4 or 5 teams now that they have people there from FCA. And that's what their simple, quote unquote, simple thing is that they just always pray together before the game and after the game. And we do the same thing prayer-wise at our basketball camp we do in the summer, our youth basketball camp. Before the camp day begins, we circle up on all the kids, and we ask the kids if they want to pray. And I think every time a kid is offered to pray, and which is awesome to see. But we got hit with a reality check because we were doing another thing that was not FCA related, but we had a couple of FCA kids there, and I'm talking like 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And we just got ready to start playing. And one of the kids got my attention. We're like, Coach, are we not going to pray first? And I was like, oh. And to them, that's just like, that's what we do. Yeah. We're FCA people. We pray before we compete. We pray when we're done competing. And so it was a wake-up call for me, obviously, but I was like, man, it's leaving an impact, right? That's becoming normalized in a good way.
I have 2 Sunday school students who have graduated and gone on. They're in the Marine Corps right now, but they and their brother were playing on the Piketon soccer team. And I went to watch them play a game, and I went down to wish them good luck before the game. What I saw was them gathering the people together to have prayer beforehand. And even if they wouldn't huddle up, those 3 boys would go to the bench and kneel and pray before it all started. And I thought, just like you said, emboldening these kids today to be able to feel free to stand out there and be the difference and make a difference in a life.
Yeah, that's well said.
So having said all this, this is why you're having the Gus Macker. You're bringing sports together along with something that the kids can enjoy, but also give them a platform where they can use their testimony.
Yeah, we're hoping to have, there's a lot of dynamics to the Gus Macker tournament. And so one of the things that we're hoping for is our students from the schools, this gives them a rallying point. It gives them something to come and do. So our kids from Unionta, our kids from Chillicothe, our kids from Zane Trace, Adena, Washington Courthouse, wherever, they have a place that they can come and do something together and serve alongside one another. So we'll have a handful of our athletes there just operating as scorekeepers, or we'll have an FCA presence there. And so they might be there just handing out resources for FCA. And so, but it gives them something to do. And hopefully, obviously we have tools for them to do this. And our prayer is that they'll actually get into spiritual conversations with random people on the streets and, pray with them and share the gospel with them and some of those things that allows our students to do that. And, but we do need a lot of volunteers, not just our students, but other people. Actually, John mentioned just his role now of being on the board because he wants to invest into this generation. And we get met with that a lot with adults in particular. It's like, I'm not a youth pastor. I don't have kids anymore that are teens. Like, what can I do to help? And like, this is the prime thing you can do to help. Like, come and serve. Or obviously we are a fundraising ministry, and so obviously we want people to obviously give and fuel the ministry that way, but reality is like, just come and serve. Whether you're sitting in a chair flipping a score chart for the game that's going on, whether you are helping set up, help tear down, take trash, like, we want to do this really well, and we need volunteers to do it. And so there is a place for anybody to serve at Gus Macker, and then you get to serve and be there all weekend, which is I think will be a blessing for people. But ultimately, you're getting to invest into and pour into FCA's ministry and what we do on a week-to-week, school year to school year basis that obviously allows us to do what we've been talking about.
As we've seen in the past, there's a lot of positions for volunteers to handle. And it's not so much just on game day. Sure, you're going to have that to deal with, but the pre-registration, the handing out of T-shirts, all that kind of stuff. You need
T-shirts like Brian's.
Yeah.
Look at this. I try to be loud today. Today's a registration deadline too, so for teams. But yes, there's a place for everybody, and Gus Macker is a great partnership for us because they already have all those details worked out. We just have to execute it and operate it as a local group. But there's so many details I did not realize we were going to get into. And we're working with the Pioneer School right now, just to give them a shout out. Like, we have all of our players' bags, which is going to be, we don't know the numbers yet because registration is not over till tonight, but we'll have somewhere between 500 and 800 players. Each of them get a bag of stuff. Well, we have to stuff those bags. Well, we're trying to get everything because next week the Pioneer School is going to stuff all those bags for us. And because that's something they can do and they wanted to do. And we've got there's a recovery council that's going to come and help set up on Thursday and unload baskets. And somebody has to unbox all these trophies and get them all set out and then hand them out to the kids. And if you unbox the trophies, you can also experience the joy of handing out the trophies to the winning team if you want. And so, there's just a lot of nuanced things that take to pull this off. But one of our core values in FCA's world is excellence. We want to do this with excellence. We don't want to just do it just to do it. We want to do it well so that not just us and just the kids who are there, but like, we want our downtown businesses to want us to be back. We want the community to be like, yes, Gus Macker, how blessed are we that we get to do and host Gus Macker in downtown Chillicothe. That's our hope at the end of the event. And if we do it with excellence, we think that'll help with that cause.
I'm trying to remember, it seems like last year Water Street was utilized in a great way. What is the street layout right now at this point?
Great question. So we will still use Water Street. And so we will go from basically where Christie's Pizza is, and then we will go down to Yaktangi Parkway. And so we'll use the intersection of Paint and Water is where Top Men's will be, and that'll kind of be the focal point. We'll have Dream Court. Actually, Dream Court will be in the parking lot of Christie's Pizza. And then we'll have some food trucks and stuff that'll be there in that parking lot as well to kind of give us a food area. Some of the other logistics will still work out after we find out exactly how many teams we'll have registered. But so it'll still be though all down Water Street, and then kind of allow people to flow down into Yaktangi as far as just a place to be and to hang out during the weekend and all that. So.
Dream Court experiences, if you're unfamiliar with this, unless things have changed, there is a floor that's actually put down, and it's really the showplace of a Gus Macker event.
It's exciting. So the kids get picked, teams get picked, and they get to go play on Dream Court. And Gus himself, Scott, he announces the game. Like it's a live game. They do player intros. They get the music is blaring, and he does play-by-play over the loudspeaker for those kids while they're playing the game. It's a really cool environment. For a plug for State Farm. State Farm is our Dream Corps sponsor this year, and but it allows us to do that, and it's a fun environment for the kids. I think there's something about sportsmanship that usually allows you to get picked to play in those games. In my day, I was not a very good sport. I never once got asked to play on Dream Court, so I'm still a little bitter about it. But yeah, it's a great festive environment for the kids.
Wait a second, you're running the show now. You can play on the Dream Court.
I might go get a shot up. So, but other than that, my knees might give out. So,
Dan, if I could just say, I want to compliment Brian on his leadership and the passion that he has led, not just this Gus Macker effort, but our FCA. I'm really proud to be a part of that. And as he said, we're trying to do things with excellence here. I know there are a lot of people that really want to see God have a presence in school, God have a role in school. And I know there are people maybe that think that he doesn't or he can't. He can. He absolutely can. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. Prayer is still legal in our schools, and I think it should be encouraged. And I think for those folks that are wondering how can they be a part of helping this, as we've talked about, there are a lot of different ways. Get your church to write a check in support. We could use all of that. It's going to a very good cause, but it's not just going to fall out of the sky or just happen. God empowers people with the ability, with the resources to be able to do these things, and that's where we have to step up as businesses, as individuals, and as churches to try to help with something like this, because it's just not going to happen on its own.
And there's a 4-letter word that can be used: pray.
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything without communication, open communication with God.
Absolutely.
And he's sovereign, so he's always going to be in schools, whether the government wants him to be or not. So if you can't give financially, if you can't give of your time, take a moment to pray for the event. Of course, for the people who are administrating things going on, the participants, for their safety, but more importantly, that God's message is getting out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have some intentional prayer team people that are praying right now. We have people that will be off-site. They won't even be there. They'll be praying over the weekend. If you're interested in being a strategic person, I don't know if that's the right word, but actually being on the official prayer team, like so that you know some of the specific things that you can be praying for. Or if you want to be on site, we'll have a prayer team on site. If that's of interest as well, yes, please let me know, and I can put you in contact with the leaders of that team, because we will never be able to pray enough for this event and this weekend. We can't have too many people on a prayer team. That's impossible. And a lot of people have asked, man, FCA and Gus Macker, you remember what that looks like downtown sometimes? Because it can get a little heated. Competition can get heated, and parents can get out of control.
That's why I said this is a great opportunity. If ever there was a place that we would need God to show up, it's at a Gus Macker basketball tournament.
We should have plenty of opportunities to pray. So,
anything that we have missed today that you wanted to get out there? If you want to volunteer, what do you need to do?
So if you want to volunteer, there's a link on our page, on the Facebook page. Go and volunteer. It takes you to a little form. And then in that form, you just give your basic information, your phone number, your email address, I think T-shirt size, and there's a long list on that form that shows what the volunteer opportunities are. So like there's a shift from 8 a.m. until noon for being a scorekeeper or whatever. And so there's a long list of those, and you can sign up just for that. And then Amber, who's our coordinator for all of our volunteers, she will follow up with you and get you plugged into that team. Or if you have a group, this is another great opportunity as well. If you have a group that would want to volunteer together, you can, instead of volunteering all your groups as individuals, you can volunteer on that page and just say, we're a group, and we want to help with the registration tent, the bracket tent, whatever it is, set up, tear down, and you can sign up as a group to do that. And it's a really good opportunity for team building. Obviously, some of our sponsors are actually collecting a team of their employees to come and serve at the event, just because it gives them an opportunity to get their employees together outside of work. And so that should be really fun. But if you want to sign up as a random volunteer or as a group, you can just go to that form, which is on our Facebook page, and we will be blasting that like crazy. Registration ends tonight at midnight, and then after this, we will be blasting opportunities to volunteer like crazy on our social media page.
It's also a great way for students to get service credit hours.
Oh, yeah.
Which can help them in a number of ways with organizations and scholarships and future opportunities. And I think there's some real nice side benefits too for joining and being a part of FCA and this Gus Macker.
Yeah, if they need a signature for volunteer hours, I love to be their guy. So
Have his stamp of approval.
That's right.
So, John Saxton, thank you. Brian Grigsby,
Thanks, Dan.
thank you. We'll see you again before too long, because Litter Media is one of the media partners for Gus Macker. So we have a few more interviews to do to feature. You can go to our YouTube channel as well and follow along and see more of what we've discussed in these first two interviews and what's down the road. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for watching as well. And thanks to Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, of course, your Total Comfort Advisor. And they are our advertiser for this particular program on Litter.